All right. So I thought I would take a look at the LMMS source code. LMMS is a like a digital audio workstation. I think it's kind of like an attempt to be an open source Fruity Loops or something like that, like a loops or beats making workstation, as opposed to something like Pro Tools, which is for recording and mixing and mastering in the broader sense. The reason for doing this is my brother was watching my stream, and he said that it kind of had a relax. He said it was kind of like ASMR, which I'm not totally familiar with ASMR, but I don't think it's quite like ASMR. I think he means maybe a little bit like the vibe is chill and mellow, and maybe a little bit sleep inducing and or boring. So I thought I would lean into that a little bit and maybe try to add some mellow beats. And I don't know anything at all about making beats, and I've been playing around here and there with the audio, the various audio recording software on Linux, and I'm curious to look more into LMMS. And the software on Linux seems to there's a lot it can do, but it never seems to quite rise to the level of professionalism when professionals I know try to use it, and that's somewhat expected. There's less money to invest in these sort of things. But I thought I would get to know some of the software, like LMMS and Ardour and Jack and all of those things, and kind of try to get a feel for what they're up to and how they are built. So let's see. Let's see if see what we can find. So I'm on their GitHub page, and actually, let me pull something up on my other machine real quick. All right. Okay, so I'm on the LMMS GitHub. I also have LMMS open. One second. All right. Let's see if I can find LMMS on my here. Okay, so here's what it looks like when you open it. I have 1.2.2, which seems to be the latest release, which was released about 3 years ago. Okay. I wonder, that's a pretty long time for a release. Is this because it's stable? Let's see when the last few commits were 878 many years ago. Okay. I wonder, has there, okay, so I'm on a release branch. Let's check out master. Okay, here we go. So master has gotten more recent commits, so that's good. So maybe we can look up, I think insights is what tells me about the project activity. Okay, so they're closing bugs. Actually, let's take a look at issues. 923. Okay, and then 3,000 closed. I think that when you're building, this is complicated software. I think when you're building complicated software like this, especially because it's multi-platform, I think it works on certainly Linux and Windows. Let's see what we got. Does it say what platform? Maybe on the releases page. Windows, yeah, and Mac. I think I've seen from before. And if you look at these change logs, there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of them are fixes. If I just grep for fix and highlight all. Wait, what? One match? Oh, that's because I misspelled it. Fix. Okay, yeah, lots of fixes. So I think that just on the right hand side, you can see all of these highlights on the scroll bar. So lots of bug fixes, I guess, are going into every release. And I think to some extent, it kind of has to be that way because of the complexity of the project. I don't know if I've ever been to their website. Okay. They've got some docs, installation, interface, production, safety. What is safety? Backup. Okay. I don't know if that's safety. Instruments. Resources, but I don't know if they have like anything developer related. There's a get involved, join development. There's a GitHub wiki. Okay, and the bug tracker I think is just GitHub issues. Cloning the source code. Does this need its own? Running git clone. Okay, you've got to update the submodules. All right. Compiling. Contributing step-by-step issue tracker reporting issues. They've got a coding style guide. That's good. Instruments and effects. That's kind of cool. Header guards must not begin with an underscore. Must not. They're very serious about that. Okay. Well, I'm glad they have a serious style guide. This looks like C, and they're talking about header files, so I assume it's C. But we'll take a look at the code in a second. Is MIDI based, is not bendable, is single streamed, provides a single audio stream for all nodes. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the code. Actually, looks like a pretty small. We go into source. So we've got a bunch of directories for doing metadata and whatnot. cmake.github, etc. Debian doc, include plugins and tests. I think those are going to be important for understanding something as complicated as audio software. But the source directory only has a few folders. So we've got the GUI. Core, common, and third party. I'm curious what they use for third party. And then tracks gets its own folder. I'm not sure why tracks doesn't count as core. All right, third-party Jack 2. So these are, I assume, imports of, I don't know what this notation is, but I'm going to just go out on a limb and guess that that this is GitHub's visual display of a Git submodule. So Jack 2. Okay, yeah. So if I click on that link, I go to a specific command of Jack 2. So this is, I guess, kind of a way of instead of having a mono repo, you kind of have a pointer to another commit at another repo. But it was last merged 3 years ago. So this is kind of an old version of Jack 2. Okay, what is here? Lost Robot Music. Seems like a good name. But what is here? A header-only version of the HIIR library. Changing the sampling rate of a signal by a factor 2 in both directions, upsampling, then obtaining two signals with a pi/2 phase difference, the Hilbert transform. It is made of a two-path polyphase IIR filter implemented with FPU, 3D Now, and a bunch of other stuff. Instruction sets. Cool. That looks pretty low level. I mean, this looks like serious stuff. These LMMS people seem to be serious people. I'm going to peek and test in a minute. But I assume the real stuff is in core. Okay, LV2, I assume, is our libraries for importing and working with LV2 plugins. LV2 is a standard, I think, right? LADSPA version 2, a royalty-free open standard for plugins. Synthesis and processing of digital audio and CV. Oh, I assume that's not curriculum vitae. Control voltage gate. Okay, an analog method of controlling synthesizers, drum machines, and similar equipment. Okay. So is LV2 a specifically Linux thing? Members of Linux Audio Dev. Okay. All right. So tests, we have core and tracks. Let's actually come back to tests. All right. So here's the main core directory. We've got some sample stuff. We've got a sample clip, a sample play handle, which I assume is like a handle to a sample buffer, which I assume is a buffer full of samples. And users.source. So this is from 2005. So when did LMMS come out? Initial release, 2004. Wow. Wowzers. We've got a Q painter. I assume this is using Qt for GUI, but I'm not positive, so we'll take a look at that. I feel like sometimes it's nice to zoom out and look at the structure of the code. This code looks very clean. It's maybe a little bit long here. I mean, cool. What are we looking at? Sample buffer. Okay, so what is a sample buffer? I'm hoping it's a buffer full of samples. So a sample buffer takes in an audio file, which is as a string, I guess the name of a file. And they've got their ampersand. There's a space between the ampersand. I guess that's a style, a specific style, so that it's really clear when you're using a pointer or a whatever the I forget what this is called in C++ land. Reference, I think it's just called a reference, right? It's like the address of, I forget. It's been like a year since I wrote C++, and I guess my brain has deteriorated since then. Okay. All right. So we've got this audio file and is base 64 data. Is base 64 data. Load from base 64 else. Okay. So what does load from base 64 do? It's not returning anything. Okay, so it's it's void. It takes data, but is it really a data? I thought it was a file name. Audio file. Okay. So we're gonna we have a reference to this data, and DST, is that destination? We're going to decode the data into DST. Okay, so what that seems to imply is that, load from base 64. Yeah, that's what we called, right? Audio file. Oh, okay. So, so I guess they just store some data as base 64 encoded. I don't know enough to know if that's standard. I guess that seems that's fine. But what is what are the raw bits that it's encoding? They're just, I guess, dumping a binary file to data, or is audio file not really a file? Is it just misnamed? You can just use this function on raw data instead of a file. At any rate, so if it's not base 64 data, we set m audio file. Okay, so here's the m original data, and original frames, data frames, start frame, end frame, loop start frame, loop end frame. So I guess is a loop part of like a subset of this data? Amplification, I guess, is set to 1. That's like a 1, I guess, is being the identity transformation on amplification, and whether it's reversed, the frequency, is that sampling? No, because sample rate is sampling frequency. What is M frequency? Okay, so they've got a orig.m varlock. I'm curious to see what kind of locking they're doing. But let's see if we can learn more about M frequency first. The sample buffer can play a given sample with increased or decreased pitch. However, only samples that contain a tone that matches the default bass note frequency of 440 Hz will produce the exact requested pitch in Hertz. So I guess they are using A440 as a reference note, and I guess somehow letting the user choose what A440 gets mapped to. Processing sample rate, okay. Sample buffer play, okay. So that kind of makes sense, I think, if I understand. We don't have to pitch, so we just copy the sample data as is into pitched copy buffer. Okay. A sample fragment is, I assume, a fragment of a sample. It's got an index. Is that the index into the sample? The frames, the loop mode, which I assume there are a few modes we can do for looping. Sample frame, is it backwards? The loop start and loop end. Okay. All right, so all that's good. I'm curious how they handle plugins. Piano. Peak controller. Yeah, I'll look at that. We've got a mixer, a micro timer, a memory helper. That sounds very nice. Key map. And then I assume stuff like journaling object, and I saw something about logs, perf log. I assume that's kind of like instrumentation for logging. You might expect that to be in some sort of other folder, like a utility folder or something. Oscillator. Yeah, I want to see the oscillator. Imagine the oscillator is like the heart of everything. Let's take a look at oscillator. All right. So what are its dependencies? It's got a buffer manager, an engine, an audio engine, an automatable model, and FFT, W, blah, blah, blah. I assume that's fast Fourier transforms. Create FFT plans and generate wave tables. That's what happens when you init an oscillator. Okay, and so what does an oscillator have? It's got a wave shape model, a mod algo model, a frequency, detuning div sample rate, a phase offset volume, and a sub oscillator. Now, what is a sub oscillator? Let's find out. Sub os. Sync with the sub-os. Every time the sub-os starts a new period, we also start a new period. So when would this be used for? Sub-osc. Is FM frequency modulation by using sub-osc as a modulator? I don't know. Okay, so is this something like sub-oscillator that exists? Study of sub-oscillators and oscillator wave shaping. Creating deep, yeah, this is what I want. What exactly is a sub-oscillator? I want deep ambient sounds. All right, a look at sub-oscillator. Common tactic for fattening up the bottom end, particularly in synths, with only one oscillator or only one oscillator per voice. Classic examples include the Roland Juno 106 and SH101 and the Korg Polysix. Well, now I have to look up the Roland Juno 106. I'm just curious what era this is. Yeah, that's looking pretty 70s or 80s. A programmable polyphonic synthesizer. 1984. Can we buy one? $1,400. It doesn't even look like it has weighted keys. Well, fair enough. Can we buy an 808? Wait, did Roland make the 808? Yeah, look at that. I feel like 5,400 is reasonable for an 808. Seems like the sort of thing where if you have a studio, it's nice to walk in and have a real 808 instead of a plug-in. This one looks a little bit more. Wait, what? Roland SP 808. I wonder what the SP 808 is. I don't think that's the. This thing looks like it's the right era. The TR 808. This thing looks maybe more like late 80s, early 90s. Groove sampler. Caps lock. Why would you need caps lock on your 808? Okay, what exactly is a sub-oscillator? Of course I know what a sub-oscillator is. But when you buy an analog synth with a sub-oscillator like the Morpho, is it any different from an ordinary DCO? It uses a frequency divider circuit on the output of the master oscillator to derive exact subdivisions. You can't detune it because it's derived from the oscillator in much the same way triangles. Okay. Wow, synth people really, they seem very serious. It's like a whole world. Okay, so sub-oscillator is, they give depth. Okay, I understand that. And it sounds like, at least in this case, in software, it's just a pointer to another oscillator. And these websites, I assume, are giving me the electronics knowledge I need. Did I just close the tab? I wanted to know. Are giving me the electronics knowledge I need to implement one in hardware. Okay, so again, as I mentioned last time, as I'm getting to know these code bases, I'm just jumping around. I don't have a plan or a rhyme or a reason. Okay, so we're in the small performance logger. So copyright by the LMMS dev. So this is, I guess, written for LMMS. The only thing that slightly confuses me is why we're in this folder, the core folder. I guess it kind of is core, but maybe, as a dev, it seems like it would make sense to me to have all of the tracing and logging stuff kind of more in one place. Okay, key map. Is this just keyboard shortcuts and stuff? Or is this like piano keys? Return scale degree for a given key. Okay. The MIDI key. Get degree. Okay, so we have a key map, get degree. The key is an int. If key is less than first key, or key is bigger than last key, we're going to return -1. So I guess the keys are somehow normalized so that let's keep reading. If it map empty return key exception, empty mapping table means linear one-to-one mapping. Okay. I assume that means that this is an exception to the logic in the sense that it's different from the way other things are handled, not that it's an error. Because it's just, okay. Key offset is going to be key minus M middle key. Okay. And then we're going to compute the remainder. And I assume this is the modulus. If the key remainder is bigger than or equal to 0, we're going to take the key, assign the modulus to be the remainder. Otherwise, we're going to, I guess, renormalize it so it's positive. And we're going to return mmap at keymod. So is mmap something that we passed in? Okay, get octave. All right. So that was not keyboard stuff. That was MIDI key stuff. Okay. Memory helper. Lethal jelly bean. That's a good name. Okay, so this is part of LMMS. I guess it's probably written for LMMS as opposed to like a third-party thing. Allocate a number of bytes and return them. Byte num is the number of bytes. Memory helper aligned malloc. So I guess that does aligned malloc and aligned free. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's not like an existing version of aligned malloc and aligned free that can be used. Micro timer. This is a small file. Okay, so we've got steady clock now, return chrono duration, cast, count. Okay, so, So we have the timer, and it just uses steady clock. But what is steady clock? Include microtimer.h. Oh, now our header is in a different file or folder. Wild. Yeah, it's under include. Okay. Standard chrono steady clock. Yeah, I think this is just like a C++ standard library thing. Okay. Cool. All right, so what's the peak controller? Peak effect vector, peak controller as effects. Let's see, what do? We connect the engine audio engine, sample rate changed, blah, 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 blah. mcof needs update. We're doing some math with floats. Attack coefficient, like decay coefficient needs updates. If peak effect, but what is the peak doing? Due to a bug in older versions of LMMS, the peak controllers may not connect properly. Please ensure that the peak controllers are connected properly and resave this file. So is peak controller like a thing that exists outside of peak control technology? The fruity peak controller. One of many internal controllers is used to automate targets in response to the volume envelope of an input sound and/or its own internal LFO generator. A typical use of the peak controller is to create sidechain compression style effects by putting peak controller on the kick track and use the automation signal to control or duck the volume of other mixer tracks. Alternatively, you can use the Fruity Limiter's compressor for sidechain compression. Okay, it does some control of peaks. The peaks of functions viewed, I guess, as if you define peak to be like maybe a max or a supremum or something. So what am I looking at now? Piano. Okay. Is this the piano roll? A piano keyboard to play notes on in the instrument plugin window. Is that a typo? Maybe in? Brief. Create a new keyboard display. Cool. Well, I only have a few more minutes. Let's see if I can take a look at building something really simple with LMMS. I'll use my headphones because I want to make sure that I can hear that it's not at a crazy volume. Actually, let me back down the volume first. I think I click these things. No, I don't want a sample track. How do I delete it? And then beat, baseline. So if I hit play, I think nothing happens because I have nothing here. But if I add, is this like a full bar? So what, it's like subdivided, right? So, What have I done? I think it was set to 1/16th. No? 1/64? Whatever. It's now 1/32. I thought there'd be some dissonance here, but that's a bit much. Yeah, that sounds terrible. All right. So let's get rid of. Can I highlight all these things? No, but I can move them around. So let's just place them randomly. All right. So that's how the piano roll works. What I can't figure out is how do I make smaller nodes, and how do I like delete something I don't want. I don't know the answer to that. And also, how do I get out of this window? Let's see. Okay. Okay. So that's the triple oscillator. So what does the baseline do? The velocity of a step. So is this a beat? That just seems like a kick drum. Yeah, so these are beats. Okay, but how do I get more than a kick drum? Well, it is called kicker. I can add a whole beat. And what does this button do? Is this like on off? Mute this track, okay. What? Oh, okay. Wait. Well, I don't know why it's stopping. Okay, so how do I get other drums? I think we need a shaker. It would be nice to be able to like right click on something and have it go away. Drum synth, acoustic. Okay, so we've got like drums here. I don't know anything about drums or making beats. I'm just playing around with this program. It's a bit aggressive. Let's add some syncopated kicks here. I don't know if I like that shaker. Sounds great. All right, so I think it's clear that it's an amazing beat. The piano roll is terrible, though. All right, so what else do we got here? Bass slab. Steel guitar. How do I tell it to loop? Oh, I guess it's just a certain number of bars. So here's instruments, but shouldn't there be a bunch of what you call it? Synthesizers? All right, let's see what we can do with this triple oscillator instrument. I would like to be able to drag a region on here. Do I have to choose a different tool? Like the select tool? Hey, there we go. All right. All right, so what other tools do we have? This is not the ambient beat I was hoping for. Okay, first of all, let's make sure that... can I just shorten this? I want just fewer... So we have time signature up here. We have beats per minute. But can we change the... We've got song editor, that's the view. Controller rack settings. All right, let's look at the... Each track has content in the form of segments or elements. So let's see if we can find a segment. I don't know. Is this a sample buffer basically? I don't know. Miniature piano. To move a segment, to copy a segment. Loops are understood as 1 to n bars. It is the logic of a sequencer that determines that loops are the same as whole bars. Loop points button is off by default. When turned on, the loop will appear bright green on the timeline. All right, so it's this... Oh, there we go. Hey. But what if I want it shorter? Oh, whatever. Okay, so I right click. I just want a 1 bar song. But how do I make, I want to make smaller nodes. No scale. So what is 1/32? This is like a whoa. Oh, I can add whole chords, entire chords at a time. Is that what this is doing? So I set a chord. Let's see. So let's see. Okay. And let's extend the loop here. Okay, so what if I want major sevenths instead? That's not what I intended to do. Let's try this again. I just want to throw. No. Can I control? No. There we go. Let's just throw. Hey, why is it going to the first bar? Is it this? Oh, I see. So I just want to throw some seventh chords around in here, like this is some poor man's jazz. Hey, whatever this is, let's get rid of it. And somehow, let's start with a C major 7. Sounds perfect. Let's hear it all together. Okay. Well, clearly I don't know what I'm doing. I almost kind of have a sense of what's going on. The one thing I still don't feel like I understand is is this where I set the note? Hey, look at that. That was glitchy. Oh, it's still doing chords. Okay. Well, if we're going to still do glitchy chords, let's do something chaotic. 9 sus4 sounds chaotic. This is all season somewhere. This is this is possibly the worst song that's ever been recorded, but should I even save it? Yeah. Let's save it as awesome. Terrible song number 1. All right. That's all for now.